As changes come and go throughout the community, the Exeter Fire Department must be ready to adapt and react accordingly. When the department no longer had access to call in other stations to assist in Rapid Sequence Intubation, or RSI, earlier this year, they moved quickly to train and certify their paramedics on the protocol themselves in order to continue saving lives on the fly.
RSI stands for Rapid Sequence Intubation, and it's the process where we sedate and then intubate, so we put a breathing tube in for somebody, and that's for people that are critically injured or have severe respiratory problems or a compromised airway. So we're trying to make sure that they can get oxygen and air into their body without compromising that.
We take a patient to the emergency room, and within 5 or 10 minutes, the patient's then intubated because they had the ability to do so. A lot of illnesses and traumas, your body does everything it can to compensate. So your body's really good at compensating. It'll shut down other areas and pick up other ones to try and make it so you survive as long as you can. However, that can only do that for so long, and eventually patients will either go into respiratory distress or full-on cardiac arrest. And if we can stop them in the track before that happens and then take over the airway, we can ensure that they're being oxygenated and ventilated appropriately.
We recognized a gap in our service that we used, and it was largely what we used them for, and with that going away, we realized we needed to start our own process. We reached out to the state, got all the information we needed to get certified. We used an outside agency to do the training. He came in and did training for the entire department. The first training was for the entire department, so everybody that's a certified provider, EMS provider for the department went through the first part.
We've had to do 2 full classroom days with Eric Yeager. He's an instructor who came in, and a lot of it was lecture. And then we did probably 6 hours of just RSI scenarios, running through different intubation techniques, all the medications. And then since then, every paramedic who becomes licensed has to have 5 live intubations. 2 or 3 weeks ago, we got the approval from the state that we were officially certified. And because of only having 5 paramedics who are currently licensed, one shift has 2 paramedics on that are, and that shift had a call where they ended up needing to intubate a person who traditionally we would not have been able to. So they were able to sedate and paralyze them, do the RSI, and then transport the patient to Portsmouth Regional. But now we're going to be able to sedate and paralyze the patients and then intubate them and continue breathing for them. That way their body doesn't have the ability to crash before we do so. The typical call where we need to RSI someone maybe happens in Exeter a handful of times a year. They're usually pretty significant calls, and we did have the ability before to call Exeter ALS, and that's where they were kind of a lifeline for us, being so close in town, if they were available and having that capability. When it is necessary, you absolutely need it, and it's a life-saving intervention. And I've heard of calls, not necessarily in Exeter, but other towns where they didn't have the capability and there wasn't anyone around with the capability, and that patient ended up going into cardiac arrest. So if you can stop the dying before that point, then you might be able to at least get them to definitive care where they can try and fix the problem.
It gives us the ability to provide that service to the community instead of having to call another agency in or wait for an agency to come in to provide that service. So it's quicker service and treatment sooner.